Thank you. Here comes Betty.
Great.
Okay, so we're recording. How about Brooklyn Borough Hall? Can I?
Sure. Hi, good evening. Welcome everyone from Brooklyn Borough Hall. We're going to all introduce ourselves. I'm Beth Slepian. I'm vice chair, sitting in for Rhonda, who's usually here in person, but we've swapped this evening.
We did.
I'm Mary Ellen Sullivan, part of outreach and events.
Robert Safford at Monty Garden and BK SWAB.
I'm Lacey Tauber. I'm the legislative director here at Borough Hall.
I'm Kate. I am the curbside composting outreach project coordinator at Big Reuse.
Pablo Garcia, I'm a member of BK SWAB, Organic Industrial Committee and Legislative Committee. I do academic research.
Excellent. So that's everyone in the Borough Hall. So welcome again to everyone, and welcome to everyone here. Thanks for sharing your particulars in the chat. Thanks very much. Thanks, Michael. Michael's also on the exec board. Okay, so why don't we get started? Oh, can we first, I sent out the meeting minutes from last month. I don't know if people had a chance to read them or if anyone wants to move that we approve them. Do we have, oh, first of all, do we have a quorum? Sorry, Vasil. Do you know, can you tell Beth if we have a quorum, or Sherry is always our quorum checker?
I'm looking also.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to count too.
Okay, thanks.
I'm pretty sure that we do. What do you have, Sherry?
I would agree.
Okay. Okay. Now, back to the vote. Does anyone want to move to approve the minutes from last month's meeting? Vasil, does anybody second that? Thanks, Betty. Does everyone in favor? Can you just say aye, or does anyone disapprove, or any nays? Any abstentions?
An abstention. I haven't read them, sorry.
Okay, one abstention. Fondra gets a mention in the minutes. Okay, so hereby the minutes are approved from last month. Okay, so I just would like to welcome, first of all, and thank so much to Big Reuse for coming tonight. You've been doing a lot of research, outreach. Kate Sundberg is the curbside composting outreach project coordinator, and she's going to speak about the how and why for the curbside organics collection rollout. And it's delightful to have you here. So she's going to give her talk, first of all, like the talk she gives to groups, and then who request her presence, and then she's going to, if needed, she'll take questions, and then if needed, she'll talk about what their outreach plan is for Big Reuse following the DSNY outreach plan from last week. Okay, so I will start sharing screen. Kate, unless you want to say anything else.
Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. I'm super excited to be here talking about the curbside composting program. Just for a little context, Big Reuse is an environmental nonprofit in Brooklyn. We do a lot of things, and we have a reuse store in Gowanus. We also process compost at a couple sites, and then we also receive funding from the Department of Sanitation to do outreach for the curbside composting program. So that is the team that I work on. And so we're mainly focused on the brown bins and that side of composting in New York City. And we, work with DSNY to do the outreach. So I've been on the team since 2021, when curbside composting first started coming back to the city after the pause during the pandemic. So I've seen a lot of change over the years, but I'm super excited that it's coming to all of Brooklyn, and to see it becoming mandatory and going citywide is very exciting. So yeah, today is the day. Curbside composting begins in Brooklyn this week. Super exciting. We've been waiting for this day for a while, so it's wild that it's here. You can go to the next slide. So service is expanding to the entire city over the course of the next year. Currently, all of Queens is receiving weekly service. Brooklyn starts today. The Bronx and Staten Island will start in March, and then Manhattan will follow next October. So by the end of next year, the entire city will be receiving curbside composting service on recycling day. There are a couple districts right now in the Bronx and Manhattan. It's Bronx Community Board 8 and then Manhattan Community Board 6 and 7 that are currently receiving curbside composting service, kind of from the previous iteration of the program, where residents had to sign up to receive service. So there's some addresses in those districts that are also getting the weekly pickups. You can go to the next slide. So as soon as all of the districts receive service, leaf and yard waste separation for composting is mandatory. So all residences are required to separate out leaf and yard waste and set it out on recycling day. The leaf and yard waste can either go in the brown bin in your compost bin that you set out, or in a clear plastic bag or a paper lawn and leaf bag. And it just goes out each week on recycling day. You can go to the next slide. So the biggest update for some areas of Brooklyn is that the collection day is going to be different than it was before if you were previously receiving service. So everywhere in Brooklyn and also everywhere in Queens are going to receive the weekly pickup on the same day as recycling. So it'll be every week. There's no pauses. It'll run through the winter. And yeah, it's the same pickup day as recycling. If you're unsure what your recycling collection day is, you can look on the DSNY website and find that. So as I said before, leaf and yard waste separation is mandatory. Food scraps are not, it's not being enforced at this time. It is mandatory based on the passage of the universal mandatory curbside composting. But the enforcement for food scraps and food soiled paper will start in April of 2025. And there's no limitations to buildings that can participate. Every building is automatically on a route, no matter how big or small. And there's no sign up required. So even a building with 200 units can participate, a single family home can participate. There's no limitations. You can go to the next slide. So composting is important because it helps keep our city clean by putting food scraps and food soiled paper in these secure bins. It prevents rats from tearing open black trash bags and also just the trash bags from ripping on the streets and causing a mess on the sidewalk. So putting it in a secure bin is a lot safer. You're or containerizing the food that rats want to get at and making it a lot harder for them to reach. Can go to the next slide. So what to compost? For the brown bin curbside composting program, you can compost all food scraps. That includes meat, bones, dairy, and then food solid paper, and then obviously leaves and yard waste and fruits and vegetables, and any cooked food is fine as well. Because the compost is processed on such a large scale, it's able to accommodate the material that you wouldn't normally put in a small scale composting facility. And then the main things that you should not compost are anything that you would normally recycle. So clean paper should not go in the compost bin. And then anything that's trash. So we don't want to be putting like wrappers, diapers, dog poop is not compostable. So any of that should stay out of the compost bin. You can go to the next slide. So most of the compost that's collected in Brooklyn is processed at the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant. There's some anaerobic digesters there where basically the food scraps are blended into a smoothie essentially, and then pumped into these eggs that you see on the screen, and combined with the wastewater, and then anaerobically digested over the course of a couple months. And it condenses the material and also produces methane. The methane is captured, and then it gets cleaned in the gas to grid facility that National Grid runs, and then goes back into the grid as a clean energy source, aka biogas. And then the remaining material, the biosolids that are left after the material is digested, can be used as a fertilizer. Yeah, so the material is also sent to some other facilities, but most of the material in Brooklyn goes to the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant. You can go to the next slide. So composting is easy as 1, 2, 3. You just separate out your food scraps. So rather than putting food scraps in the trash, you just put it in a separate bag or bin. And then you take those food scraps, put them in your compost bin, and then every week, the day before your recycling collection day, you set it out to the curb. You want to make sure that you're keeping your bin latched at all times, and if you are lining it with a bag, you want to make sure you tie the bag up before you set it out for collection. And then if you have like larger twigs and yard waste, you can bundle that and set it out next to your bin. And same goes for like leaves and yard waste can be set in a bag next to your ground bin. You can go to the next page. I think I kind of already covered all of this already. So yeah, for leaves and yard waste, you can either put it in the brown bin or in a separate bag. Food scraps do have to go in a bin. You can line the bin with a clear plastic bag, a paper bag, or a green compostable bag, as long as it's BPI certified, and you just want to tie it shut before you set it out. But all food scraps have to be in a secure bin with a lid. They cannot go out in a plastic bag. Next slide. So if you have like a landscaper, that waste should not be set out for collection. The landscaper is supposed to take the waste with them. Yeah. You can mix the food scraps with leaves and yard waste if you want, or you can keep them separate. It's up to you. You can go to the next slide. So some common misconceptions with composting. I think the biggest one is that it attracts rats and other pests, but it actually does the opposite. It reduces rodents by putting the compost in a secure bin. You're making it a lot harder for rats and pests to get at the food. Some people think composting is complicated, and maybe it was before when you for like a drop off where you could only compost some things. The city makes it really easy because you can compost all food scraps and organic material, and then just set it in a bin on the curb for collection, and it's just like trash and recycling. There's no extra steps. Like I said before, you can compost the meat, bones, and dairy and cooked food because it's processed at an industrial scale that can handle that material. You can use a plastic bag to line your brown bin. There's this machine called the Tiger that separates out the bags from the food when it gets processed. So that makes it a lot easier to participate and a lot cleaner for buildings, especially that don't have water sources or like easy water sources to clean out a bin. And then another misconception is that the compost just goes in the trash. It doesn't. All of the trucks that Department of Sanitation uses look the same. So the same truck that the truck that's collecting your trash looks the same as the truck that's collecting your compost. And sometimes the trucks are split down the back. So one side will be trash and one side will be compost, but they're going to two separate places. It kind of just depends on the district and the amount of material. Sometimes there's like dedicated compost trucks where it's just collecting compost. Sometimes it's a split body. It just kind of depends. We can go to the next slide. So taking care of your brown bin or your compost bin. It's important to write your address on your bin. On the brown bins, they have a white section where you can write your address. Make sure to put your address on the bin. This will help prevent people from stealing it. But it also just is good to label it as your own. You want to make sure you're cleaning your bin as needed. It is food scraps, so they are a little gnarly, especially in the summer. Your bin could get messy, so clean it as needed. And then you just want to make sure you're latching it securely at all times. If you don't latch it, the pests can get in more easily, so make sure you're latching the bins. We do have a graphic for how to latch the 21-gallon bins, because I know that's a little bit more tricky, so I can share that with the SWAB later if you want to hang that up in your building or something like that. Go to the next slide. Some tips for storing your food waste inside. You can freeze it to prevent odors. That's what I do with my compost. You can also, if you're using a kitchen container or a compost bin, you can line it with a bag. You can either use the green compostable bags or like a little produce bag or a paper bag. And then you can just take out your compost more frequently, so it's not sitting around for multiple days. And also if you're using a bin with a lid, just make sure it's like shut tightly. You can go to the next slide. Weekly collection on recycling days. This is the website where you can find your collection day if you're not sure what day is recycling. You don't need to sign up or enroll. Every address is automatically on a route, and the service is year-round, indefinitely. You can go to the next slide. So if you're setting out your food waste in a bin, it can go out anytime after 6 p.m. And midnight the night before your collection day. If you're setting your yard waste out in bags, then it has to go out after 8 p.m. You go to the next slide. Yeah, I think that's the same information. So for buildings with more than 10 units, aka a high-rise building, you should probably talk to your property manager or the superintendent about participating in the program if they aren't already aware of it. Anyone in a building, even tenants, can order the free brown bin, and residents can also choose to take on the responsibility of being in charge of the building's compost bin, or you can talk to whoever manages the trash about participating. We do have a lot of educational materials and can support high-rise buildings in terms of getting set up. So I think we have the site where you can request those materials later in the participation or in the presentation. Here's the resources. So if you go to on.nyc.gov/event request, you can request someone from a representative of DSNY to come to your building and either give out free compost bins or present to the residents. There's also a bunch of informational materials that you can order for free on the sanitation website. You can go to the next slide. So this is a bit of information on the outreach and education we've been doing this fall. So we started out canvassing in all of Brooklyn. So every 1 to 9 unit any 1 to 9 unit building was knocked on. I think we're wrapping up the canvassing. My team was doing it for all of August and the first 2 weeks of September, and then we had a vendor that took over. So yeah, knocking on all the doors, leaving flyers if someone didn't answer, but also talking to people and explaining the program. You can go to the next slide. The Department of Sanitation is doing informational sessions. So there's presentations to each of the community boards in Brooklyn. There's virtual information sessions that you can sign up for on the sanitation website. We're doing outreach to civic associations, and we're also doing in-person presentations for high-rise buildings where that request a presentation or training. You can go to the next slide. We're also giving out free 40-pound bags of compost and also 1-pound bags of compost. There's one 40-pound compost giveaway scheduled in each of the community board districts. If you're interested in finding one and signing up for compost or registering for it, you can go to nyc.gov/getcompost. And then we have a bunch of events for distributing kitchen containers, leaf bags, and then 1-pound bags of compost throughout the borough. So I have a list of those that we have scheduled at least for the next month or so that I can share. We're at a lot of events throughout the borough, so just keep an eye out at different community events for folks from our team. You can go to the next slide. And then the Department of Sanitation did some digital outreach. There were emails, text blasts, and such to people who had previously signed up for curbside composting. Social media toolkits were distributed to various groups and elected officials. And then if you go to the next slide, we also did, the Department of Sanitation also has done paid social media ads. A mailer was sent to all Brooklyn residents. And then there's some various other paid advertising things. I've seen the flyer or the poster on bus station, bus stop, or I don't know, those structures at bus stations and in subway stations. And then we did some web publications, radio, stuff like that. You can go to the next slide. Okay, that's it. Any questions? I saw a lot of questions coming up in the chat, so I can if I don't know if someone wants to feed them to me or just go down the list.
Yeah, Beth, do you want to moderate that, or do you want me to, since I'm remote?
If you're remote and you can do it, it might be easier than
Okay.
here,
Okay, so let me just go back to the beginning. We've got a lot of comments.
but I can co-moderate that with you if that helps.
Okay, yeah, indeed. Okay, thank you. So I also wanted to give a shout out to Mary Most, who's an OG compost administrator, facilitator from the Department of Sanitation. Thanks for coming tonight. Okay, so here we are. Okay. So I'm just starting with the questions more than the comments. Michael wants to know if you know the name of the vendor that's doing the canvassing now.
No, I don't I did know it, but I don't off the top of my head know what it's different than the vendor that they used in Queens. And I know it's a woman-owned company, but I can't remember the name of it. But
Okay.
I can follow up with the name of the vendor.
Okay, all right. Allison Allen says, we hear a lot of people that say they can't get the super building management to participate in the program. What help can they get? And can people call 311 with this kind of complaint so it's tracked separately via open data?
That's a great question. I'm not sure if you can call 311 with that kind of complaint until the enforcement for mandatory composting begins. Definitely when mandatory composting begins, you can file a complaint if your building won't participate. But I think, yeah, it's tricky to get your super or building management to participate in the program. We do have some resources that we can give people to help convince their building to participate. I think the biggest thing that you can use now that it is mandatory is that it's mandatory and they have to participate. The way that I usually phrase it with people who are skeptical is I say it is mandatory. There's just a grace period before they enforce before they start fining you for the food scraps. So it's good to get started now so that you don't get fined when it is when you can get fined. But it is mandatory. The bill has been passed, so people have to do it. And then also another incentive is that GSNY is only giving out the free brown bins until October 13th. So when the enforcement does begin, they won't be giving out brown bins anymore. So it's good to order your free brown bin now and start participating now and get used to it and get people on board. Another common thing that I hear from like supers or building management is like, oh, well, my tenants won't participate. And it's like, well, then start getting them used to it now. So that when you can get fined, they will be more in the habit of participating. I think if people are worried that, I don't know, I think it's just like having a conversation and hearing what their concerns are as well, and like why they don't want to participate. And then there are a lot of misconceptions, and so if you can try to I don't know, educate them on the benefits of the program and how easy it is, it can help people come around, especially when you can line the bin with a clear plastic bag. It's basically the same as trash when you can use a clear, like when you can use a plastic bag in the bin, it's really not different from trash. It's the same food scraps. They're not like magical food scraps coming from nowhere. Like they're still going in the trash bin. Now you're just putting it in a more secure bin that has a lid. So
I have a question. Is this slide presentation something that we could use, that you could share with, we can share with the members here?
I'll have to check on that.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I can double check and see if it's something we're able to share. And then yeah, we also have like a 2-page sheet that has a bunch of the like misconceptions and responses to them, and tips for specifically talking to like your landlord or your building management. So I can also share that with you guys.
That might be great. And that's like a great answer if people ask, if people send questions to us, we could give them that 2-pager. That would be nice.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, so the next question is from Sandy. She asks, what is the rationale for separating yard waste from organics? She understands that perhaps bigger branches may not work. What happens to big branches? But mixing leaves is good with food scraps, good to help with bugs, odors, decomposition.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really just like up to you. I mean, some people like think of it as like, oh, I'm doing my yard waste. I'm like putting all the leaves in a bag together and then not necessarily like putting the leaves in the brown bin. You can totally mix it. There's like no reason. I think just some people think of them as separately, so that's why you're allowed to separate it out. But yeah, I agree. It's like great to mix in leaves with food scraps. So I recommend that always.
And also, I think maybe the confusion is that when they're on the curb, not in a container, it has to just be leaves. But you can mix them together as long as they're in a container, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes people are, it really depends on like the house or the building. Cause like if you have a really big yard and a lot of leaves, they're probably not gonna fit all in the brown bin during like peak leaf season. So that's when you will want to make sure you're just putting the food scraps in the bin, and then any additional leaves would have to go separate. But you can totally mix them. It's up to
Okay.
whatever's easiest for people.
Okay, good, thanks. And Renee Whittick said she hasn't received a flyer in the mail. She lives in Brooklyn. Renee, what is your community board or zip code? You can unmute yourself and say it if you want.
Yes, I'm in 11226
Okay.
Okay.
code.
I'm the same zip code and I received mine, but they were mailed like in August, at the beginning of August or the end of July. So it's possible yours maybe just got lost in the mail or something. I don't know. I mean, realistically, like I know I've talked to postal workers when we were canvassing, and they were like, oh, we hated that. So they are delivering it to literally every single residence, so it's possible some maybe got lost in the shuffle, or I don't know. I know that like one of my coworkers found a stack of them in his lobby, and I think that the mail person like accidentally set them down and then forgot to get them again or something. So things happen. I was like, oh no, like you should hand deliver these to the people like on your block who didn't get them.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, like some things happen. Most residences did get it, and yeah, I'm sorry if yours got lost in the mail.
Okay, Debbie, I don't know what we can do about that, Renee. Maybe we can have an email about if you want us to try to get some sent to you or something. You can email the Brooklyn SWAB or me, whatever.
Yeah. You can find the flyer online too. Like all the information on the flyer is online at nyc.gov/curbside composting.
Yeah, and we'll send a link to find those things. Okay, Debbie Herden says, are the kitchen bins made of virgin plastic?
I don't know. Probably.
Okay.
I know the kitchen bins were ordered like pre-pandemic. Like we've had these for a while. They've been in storage for years. So we're kind of like using what was ordered like pre-2020. And I don't think that there's plans to like order more. It's like we're trying to give them away, and then once they're all given away, it's like it's over. So
Okay.
we aren't going to be ordering more of them.
Right. And Leah from the Bronx SWAB asked if we can get a copy, so we'll let you know what we find out after Kate finds out.
Yeah.
Sandy asked another question, can one find out where our collected organics goes? And I think you addressed that, but if you want to just
I think like you can pretty much assume it's going to Newtown Creek. I don't think that sanitation will tell you exactly where it's going, because it's also not always the same place. It just like depends on the day or the week and how much material there is and stuff like that. But my understanding is that like all of Brooklyn is going to Newtown Creek.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So Kendall asks, from now until April 2025, when enforcement begins, is 18 months. What's the plan for continuous education? And will there be a warning period before violations are issued? And what will constitute a violation? Do you know these things?
Yeah, great questions.
Yeah.
So, the plan for education right now is there's education in each borough, like leading up to the beginning of service and then for a couple months after. So the plan is to be in Brooklyn doing outreach and education through the end of the year. And then we're gonna be shifting over to the Bronx and Staten Island. And so we'll do outreach and education there. Like that being our main focus, next year for like the first half of the year, and then moving over to Manhattan for the second half of the year. And then from then on, so I would say from like 2025 till April 20, like the beginning of 2025 through April 2025. I don't think that we've thought that far ahead. I don't think that there's a plan yet, so I can't really answer that. I'm sure that there will continue to be education, but there's not really. We're just focusing on the rollout right now. And the warning period, I think that the 6 months between when Manhattan starts receiving service and then April 2025, that's 6 months. So that's the like warning period before fines are issued. But I don't know how they're gonna enforce it. It's tricky, and I don't know if sanitation's really figured out a plan for how they're gonna enforce it. All I can say is that it's gonna be similar to recycling. And enforcement of recycling in New York City. So people won't necessarily get fined. It's not like if you don't compost, someone's gonna magically come and fine you. Like it would have to be reported, or you would have to be in an area where they do like a an audit or something like that. And yeah, so that's my best answer.
Okay, thanks. That's a great answer. Akmos says, thank you very much for the presentation. Nan Richardson says, why such a long lag time to enforce mandatory than 2025? Too long, she says. People won't do it voluntarily, sadly. She's a master composter and finally got her 80-unit building to participate. And thank you to you, but converting the residents is another task entirely.
Yeah. Hi, Nan. So the reason that the enforcement is 2025 is it's 6 months after the entire city has service. So it's like, it can't be mandatory until everyone's had a chance to participate. And then it's like a 6-month period after that. And so that's just what was outlined in the mandatory composting bill that was passed. So that's what is happening. But it is mandatory, and you can tell people it's mandatory. It's just not enforced, but that doesn't mean it's not mandatory. So, yeah, you can, it's all about the phrasing.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
I just want to say, are you able to stay? Because we've got a lot more questions, and I think this is really good. I think this has been top of mind for everyone.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk, I think tonight's meeting is going to be a lot about organics. I thank you for staying.
Yeah,
And
of course. I can definitely
Allison
stay.
asked, okay, thanks. So Allison asks, are there any observations after day 1? She knows it's early, but I don't know if there are any passed down to you.
I
Just
don't
curious to
even
see.
think that, well, I guess collection started maybe today. I have no idea. I haven't heard anything. We probably will hear stuff after maybe the first week of service, but probably not much data until like after the first month. If I know any, like based on Queens and the pilot there, it took a little while for us to hear anything of how it was going. And I do know that it does take a little bit of time to work out the kinks. Like the sanitation workers have to get used to the routes and this new pickup. So it can take a little bit of time, I think. If you set out your bin and for some reason it doesn't get collected the first week, just keep setting it out. Like there are some kinks and it isn't going to be perfect from the very beginning. So if your bin gets missed, it's not because it's not going to ever get collected. It just might take a week or two for that to happen.
Great. Okay. Betty says, again, thanks for this excellent presentation. I agree. Mary Most wants to just clarify that only leaf and yard waste is mandatory. Food scraps are voluntary. Do you have a comment about that, Kate?
It's all mandatory, but leaf and yard waste is what's being in. You can get fined for leaf and yard waste. Food scraps, you won't get fined yet. But everything is mandatory because the bill was passed. The way DSNY is messaging it, they're saying food scrap only leaf and yard waste is mandatory. So, and that's partially because the outreach materials were created before the bill passed. And yeah, technically until it's kind of up to interpretation, like until it's enforced and you can get fined, food scraps, I guess, are voluntary, but yeah.
Okay, thanks. And then
like you won't get in trouble if you don't compost your food scraps, but the mandatory bill has passed. So
right. Okay. So Akmos says it's because yard waste can be contaminated with lead due to soil, amongst other things. Due to the soil, amongst other things. I guess that's what he's talking about with mixing. So that's just reading that out. I don't know if you have a comment or if anybody else wants to comment. I see Mary turned on her camera.
I mean, I leave it to the current experts, but they've tested the yard waste and the food scraps go to the same place to be processed. And the compost is tested rigorously, constantly, because we're making sure that what comes out is gonna be acceptable. And it is a very, very high quality compost that comes out of our collected organics.
That's processed as compost.
In the facilities on Staten Island and the other composting facilities that we use. Yeah, I say we retired.
Right. I know. I like that, Mary. I like that. Once a DSNY, you can't take the DSNY out of the lady. Okay. Thank you. So Allison's created a document to help for the compost carnival to help people who can't get their buildings. It's like a little helpful, some suggestions. So we'll share that out also, this link. Debbie shares DSNY assets page. Okay, Kendall says, if kitchen catchers are made by Sure Clothes, they're HDPE and include some recycled content. Thanks for the word from our sponsors. Can you tell us what happens to the solids that come out of the Newtown Creek wastewater resource recovery facility? Michael asks.
I went on a tour of Newtown Creek and they told us some of the ways that it gets used. But I can't say for sure. I would say if you want to know all the information, you should sign up for a tour of the Newtown Creek wastewater resource recovery facility and ask them those questions. I know some of it does get composted, some of it does get landfilled. There is a goal to make sure that all of the solids are like recovered or like are used beneficially by 2030. So it kind of just depends on the facility, but that's the goal. By 2030, all of it will be beneficially used and none of it will be sent to landfill. Then so, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, 2030, some of it does get composted or used as a fertilizer, but I don't know what the percentages are or anything like that.
Just as a quick follow-up to that,
Yeah,
the building sustainability fair. I was talking to council member Wrestler, and he said that, Newtown Creek is starting to flare again. Do you know why that's happening and, what plans are in place? I mean, I know.
Yeah.
Newtown Creek, you probably don't, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about like Newtown Creek and why they decide to do certain things and not. I know, so I do know that there's the goal for all the wastewater treatment facilities is to not flare, so also do beneficial use of the methane, which would include no flaring by 2050. I don't, for Newtown Creek specifically, I don't know why they started flaring. I mean, it took a long time for the gas to grid system to be set up, and my understanding was that it was finally up and running. So I don't know. I mean, it took a long time, and it's like there's been many issues with it, so I guess I wouldn't be that surprised if it had a problem, but that's just speculation. I don't know.
It's probably a safety issue. If it doesn't reach a certain standard of purity, they won't put it into the system.
That's true, yeah. I do, when I was there, the issue that they were having is that the gas to grid was making it too clean, and then that was the problem. Like the purification was like, it was too clean, and so that they were trying to get the right balance. So yeah, that's a good, yeah, working out those things.
that's really interesting. I'd love to dig into that a little bit, what that means. Okay, then Amy says, do the Browns landscaping also go to Newtown Creek if they're by, I guess she means if they're by themselves.
Yeah, it all gets collected together, so everything goes to the same place because it all goes into the same truck. It's not like they're collecting the yard waste in a separate truck that's going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know that like landscaping material in Staten Island goes to the Staten Island compost facility, but I don't think anything from Brooklyn is going to Staten Island.
Okay, good to know. Okay. Akmos says he saw Oscar the Grouch come out of one today. I'm not sure if he's kidding, or I know that I've seen Oscar the Grouch advertised for fuel that's been made from that co-digestion process, I think, for airlines. But I don't know if that's what you're talking about, Akmos. So then Kendall says, trucks don't go directly to Newtown Creek. The processing facility owned by Waste Management is a mile or so away. At Waste Management, the browns are separated and sent to regional compost facilities. Okay, so this is a little bit different from what you're saying, and better suited for yard waste. Digesters are really prefer food waste, which is processed into a slurry by Waste Management and then delivered to Newtown.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
A couple of us actually visited that facility a couple of years ago, and it was fascinating. Michael says, how many tons of food scraps are currently collected each month? Do you know yet?
I don't know. You can look on open data, all the sanitation, like all the tonnage is reported on open data, so you can look there. That's the best place to see.
Okay, that's good to know.
You have a question back here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Apologize for it, I was stuck in transportation issue. Anyway, and so I probably missed, I know I missed a lot, but
It's okay.
so my building, there's about 60 units, probably. We got a brown bin delivered. It was in the lobby for like 3 days. Then it disappeared. So who is responsible for the education, number one, of the building? And how do we, is one bin like enough for 60 apartments? I don't think so. And how do we get another one? And but I think the first The biggest question is the education piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the education piece, basically whoever ordered the brown bin is kind of, I mean, you can request education from a DSNY representative. On the DSNY website, there's a form where you can request someone come to the building to do a presentation or to educate the residents, through like a tabling event. So I can give that, like link to you. But it's up to the residents or the building to request that. When the bin is delivered, it does have an informational pamphlet in it with how to use the bin, and what goes in the bin. But for a 60-unit building, one pamphlet is maybe not gonna cut it. You can also request informational materials, to be mailed to you on the DSNY website. That again, you have to request it. And then in terms of like the one bin per building, it's, so DSNY is only giving one free brown bin per address in Brooklyn. So, but the good news is that you can use any bin as long as it has a secure lid. So, you just have to put the compost decals on it, which you can also order for free on the sanitation website. So you can start out using that one brown bin, and then if it's not enough capacity, then you can add another bin. If your building already has trash bins, you can, that have like lids, you can repurpose those.
Shoot.
Gotcha.
Old fashioned, old building.
Yeah, so then your building would have to purchase an additional bin if it needs it.
Kate, does Big Reuse have a recommended list of bins or what to look for to
Yeah,
share?
that's a great, so we have a spreadsheet that has a list of all the hardware stores in the city that as of like a year ago sold a compliant bin with the program. So I can share that. It was compiled a year ago, so no guarantees that it's up to date. But every place on that list was called and asked if they had like compliant bins. In terms of like a specific bin, I don't know what, yeah.
I heard that there was a limit that you couldn't use a 65-gallon bin.
That's true, yeah. 55 gallons is the maximum size.
Okay,
Go
I'm gonna just,
Go ahead, Rhonda.
I was just gonna whiz through a couple of questions through on the chat, and I think we should kind of try to wrap it up if we can, just so we can talk about some other things. But this has been so amazing so far. We're not done. Okay. So Betty mentioned before about canceling the weekly emails regarding the dates to put out since the dates have changed. I get those dates. My dates have been updated appropriately, but maybe other people's haven't. So I can also try to find out. But Kate, if you know the person that I could contact, then I can also.
I'm not sure who's doing those reminders, but I can ask about it. I didn't know that they were still going out. I had heard that they had paused the reminders and like stopped doing those. So yeah, I can ask about that.
Okay.
Yeah, and let you guys know, because that's important. I saw a question or a thing about the Newtown Creek tours being paused. They've started up again. The Master Composter program is offering them as a field trip. So if you look at the website where Master Composter field trips are listed, I saw Newtown Creek tours. I don't know how often they're happening, but you can sign up for them there.
I can just add that we don't have any right now. Thank you, Kate. We don't have any right now for Master Composter, but we did have one, and I know that was very popular. So we'll work to do more if we can. Yeah.
Okay, great. Also, Jackie's asking. Okay, Jackie's asking if there's any confusion out there when this is being called compost, but most of it's being used to create biogas. And are you finding confusion since Brooklyn that that's going to be the?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's like, it's definitely a thing that goes back and forth. Because the program used to be called the Organics Collection Program, which makes more sense when it's not all being composted in the traditional sense, but then there was confusion amongst the public on like, what, like, does that mean I can only put organic food and produce in the bin? So it's kind of, yeah, a decision that was made. Like I didn't make that decision. So there is, I mean, I think it, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's any confusion. I don't know. There's confusion either way. So.
I mean, maybe, I feel like we've done a lot of, you know, had a lot of people come with, we've given questions, but maybe we need to have like somebody from DEP come who can answer these kind of questions, or, you know, I'm not sure. We'll have to figure that out because people seem to be very hungry to know this. And thanks for doing your best, Kate, to answer these questions. So Kendall asks, or just offers that DEP produces 1,200 tons per day of biosolids. And looks like Newtown Creek isn't offering any tours. They've been paused. National Grid about, what is this? My first contact with National Grid about Newtown Creek's biogas project was 2013, 10 years later. I guess in other words, it's been a kind of a slow getting along, if that's what you mean. Okay, so Debbie is looking for possibly a speaker with the Newtown Creek Alliance. So we'll see how that turns out. And what Liz says, what makes for a compliant bin? Wheels and a secure lid?
Yeah, so a compliant bin is any bin that's less than 55 gallons that has a secure lid. A secure lid is up to interpretation. Ideally, it has like a latching system, but as long as it like securely fits on, it's fine. It doesn't have to have wheels. And a compliant bin also has a curbside or a composting bin decal. So it has to have a sticker saying that it's compost. And you can order those for free at nyc.gov/composting bin decal.
And they stay on for a long time. I've had them on my bins. I have someone with a raised hand, Jeffrey Sanhoff.
Yes, thank you. I had asked a question in the chat, but you missed it.
Oh,
the
sorry.
Question, that's okay. The question is Parks Department going to have to recycle, separate their recycles from their composting? Because I'm in the beach area and a lot of people, you know, have their waste material put into the garbage during the summer, especially, and on the boardwalk.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know the answer. Yeah, Parks is kind of separate. And they do it's separate than residential. So I don't know. I hope so, but I don't know.
Can I ask one more question from the room, even though I know we're way over time?
It's okay.
Which is, do you have any sense of what kind of training the actual DSNY drivers who are collecting this, what they're getting in terms of training?
That's also a great question. I don't really know what training they're receiving is, but I will ask because I'm curious now. I know they hired a lot of new sanitation workers, but I remember hearing that there were some not great education and training amongst the sanitation workers in the past, and that was one effort that they were doing, like, but this is pre-2020, so I don't really know what the status is now. A lot of sanitation workers that I've just like run into at events or canvassing know about the program. And yeah, I know the basics, but I'm sure that they could have better training and I also have heard people that say their sanitation workers say it all goes to the trash, which is not true there.
Yeah, I had that experience and I was like, don't do that. I know more than other people and they're going to believe you. I don't believe you. So Jackie, I just want to say one final thing that Jackie says is that to mention to folks is that the bins are typically on wheels. This is to tell the supers, and that they're much easier than handling the black bags, which are super heavy. So that's a great thing that we could put, if Allison has that in her, we could add that to it. Like maybe we could add stuff to Allison's document. And I know
that just reminded me another thing that is helpful to tell like supers who are, I mean, it just makes the trash like way easier to manage because all the gross stuff that's in the trash is in a separate like bin.
Yeah.
So that is a positive as well. I mean, there's many positives, and I think that when buildings do start participating, they realize how good it is, and a lot of superintendents and people who manage the trash actually love the compost program because it makes their job easier in a lot of ways. So I think it's just like, once you get started, you realize how great it is, but sometimes the hurdle to actually get started is a little bit high. But we are also working to put together like a collection of testimonials from high-rise buildings specifically, and people who are participating and like it. So if you do live in a high-rise building and your super or whoever manages the trash does like it or wants to be a testimonial, I can give my contact information. If you get a testimonial from them, I can include it in those materials.
Okay, thanks. We also have, I don't know if you know already, and excuse me if you're a guest, at the super training that our outreach committee is going to be doing. Not really a super training, but like a get your bins in order, giving them, which Jackie's going to be part of and moderate, no, on the panel. And that's coming up on the 12th. So maybe.
Yes, well, actually, news, which everyone may not have gotten, and I don't know that Kate knows it, but Sarah Woodruff from Big Reuse is also going to be a panelist along with Jackie and Michaela Boren, who is a training manager with 32BJ with the green programs that Jackie hooked us up with her. And then we'll have Debbie building super as well. So it'll be a great panel. We can talk more about it later.
Okay.
But thanks for leading into that.
Yeah,
But
I want to
really
make sure that
not everyone maybe had a chance to read their emails because that was just confirmed today with Sarah.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. And Debbie, do you have one final question?
One final comment that I hope that when they take testimonies, they take it from a range of supers, not just people who are satisfied with the program.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for adding that, Debbie. Okay, thank you so much. If everyone can give like a Zoom a round of applause. Thank you so much, Kate. That was very, very informative, and we really thank you a lot. I appreciate that you stayed longer, and I think it was great to answer all of these questions. I'm sure we'll have more, and we're going to try to send these answers out, links out, etc., like in the next couple of days, if we can. So thank you. Just before your update, Lacey, if I can just make a quick announcement. We have Councilmember Nurse here to say a few words. We had today, we learned of a tragic death of a very stalwart of waste reduction. Ryan Carson was tragically killed this morning in the early hours from NYPIRG. He was leading the bottle bill expansion outreach in general and education. So it's a big loss. We're very sad. And I don't know, Councilmember Nurse, if you'd like to say a few words or. Thank you for being.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Rhonda. And I don't know who had heard that news or not, so I'm sorry if you're hearing that for the first time. But I just wanted to just come on and give my condolences and just express my just shock. And when our team found out today, we were just very, very shocked. Like, we're still processing. But just wanted to really uplift that Brian worked so hard with us and was such a great collaborator and so instrumental for our resolution on the bigger bottle bill, and just, you know, was just a great organizer and came to all the sanitation hearings and testified on behalf of the canning community and a number of other issues. And just want to express how much he would be missed, and just how awful this is. And we're here ready to support in any way. We were going to just put out like a short acknowledgement of the loss, and that he was taken from us, and uplift the work that we've done together. But we're here to support the SWABs. Yesterday was such a joyous occasion. Like, we had this wonderful event. We've celebrated this historic piece of legislation has moved forward so much, that you all have been working on just finally comes to fruition. And then it's just this awful news. But
Can you please say who is it? Would you please say again, who is it? Who is this?
Ryan Carson.
Ryan Carson. He was from NYPIRG, and he was the organizer of the Bottle Bill 40 Coalition. He has spoken about the bottle bill here at the SWAB, and has done a lot of work pushing that forward. An incredible, generous spirit, the most mutual aid person I can even imagine.
So I just wanted to thanks, Rhonda, for inviting me, and thanks, for everything you all do, and you work so hard. And I don't know what to say other than, we're here in whatever capacity we can be in. So just want to, we'll try our best to uplift him, but thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you so much for coming and saying something it really means a lot. And we really appreciate everything that you do. Thanks very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay, now, sorry to do that in the middle of the meeting. I felt like it was important to honor his work and his contribution. Shall we move on to Lacey's Borough President update?
Sure, I guess. I will also want to express our condolences to anyone who knew Brian. I didn't actually work with him, but I've just today heard so many good things about his work. I don't have a big update, really. You've all heard me talk a lot about the comprehensive plan that we've been working on, and it's coming out this week. So that has been taking a lot of my time, and is the reason I keep running out of the room to take phone calls. And other than that, we're working with the council member's office to set up a briefing for both of our offices on the status of commercial waste zones. I think we've all heard some more rumors about delays, and we want to see what's going on there. I know, I don't know if Councilmember, if you're still there, if you want to say anything about your hearing that you're planning for October, but I know it's going to be about sanitation workers. Do you have a second to say a little more about that? I think hopefully one will inform the other.
Yeah, I can be really quick. we're working on locking down a date for a briefing for our offices to get up to speed. We've heard rumors that these like announcements will be coming soon, so we're hoping that we can at least get briefed before everything is public, but who knows. At our hearing, we you know, it came up in our line of questioning that there was an issue with the consultant. There was some recalculations that had to be done, so we want to find out more information on that. And we'll be focused on, we've done about 3 oversight hearings on the CWZ. There wasn't much new information that we could stretch a hearing out of. So we've focused on sanitation workers and some of the experiences that workers are still going through as a way to talk about the importance of the CWZ and all of the worker safety protections that were put into that, which also translate into pedestrian and public safety. And so we're hoping to use that hearing as an opportunity to continue to underscore why we need to push for the CWZ and really just uplift the workers around it. So it'll be at the end of October. And I think what you can expect is a proper oversight CWZ hearing probably within the first quarter of next year, but needs some more time since, we ask every hearing a set of questions. We need some more time for new stuff to happen to actually have an oversight hearing on. But if anyone wants any more information, you can always reach out to us and we can talk more.
Thank you. Excellent. Thanks. Thanks very much. Okay, so we also have someone, Kendall says that the DSNY just approved a $2.6 million contract for CWZ outreach to a Washington, D.C. based firm, another piece of the puzzle. Okay, so coalition updates. Who does the Save Our Compost update? Is that Sherry? I'm sorry. If it's not. Okay.
Yes, I just had it pulled up, I thought. We just had a meeting a couple weeks ago and we had talked mainly about the compost carnival, which I will let others talk about because I was not organizing or there on behalf of the SWAB. I was there on behalf of work. So I will not go into that, but it was very fun. One of the other things that we had talked about is some legislation by Gail Brewer that is on requiring the 10 largest parks per borough to compost plant-based waste. And there's a hearing in October. And so once we have more updates on that, I think Justin Green is reaching out to Gail Brewer's office because Gail Brewer is the lead, I believe. And we'll ask if we can update the bill to include food scraps, makes better compost more efficient, takes less space. So I'm just reading some notes in case you can't tell. So there was a lot of discussion around that. So I think they're trying to get together with Gail and talk more. And then as soon as I haven't heard any word about a hearing on it, but as soon as it says hearing in October, but I don't know if that's coming through or not. So those were really the big topics of discussion. Unless anyone else that was there, I know a couple of folks on this call are also on those calls, but yeah.
Okay.
The quick summary. Okay.
Okay, thanks. Reusable NYC, I think I'm the rep to that because I think Oliver was. So I know that there's legislation that they're watching in terms of reusables, including some state legislation to allow people to bring their own dishes to restaurants and use them. I'm sorry to be sketchy about that. So this is, and there was going to be another reasonable NYC meeting tomorrow, but it's been postponed in out of respect to Ryan, because he was a big part of that. Okay, so now going to committee reports. The executive committee, we approved the meeting minutes. Thank everyone for doing that. We've been looking at, there's been a lot of tabling opportunities. So we've been looking at setting a list of, setting like a little sheet of tabling guidelines. We also have some more tabling events that need to be, manned or personed. And we'll send that out, both the guidelines and the list. Thank you so much, Councilmember Nurse. Thanks very much. Excellent, thanks very much. And so we're just working through just the guidelines for tabling, which are pretty much already set forth in the Sherry. I don't know if you want to say anything about it too, because she's sort of helping, spearheading that in a way. But it's all set forth in the bylaws too, sort of watching that. Do you want to say anything?
I don't think there's anything additional. It's just more guidelines, when you're tabling with your SWAB hat on versus other roles. So I think if you send out the email with what's needed, folks can, let you know if they're available to fill in. We have a bag of tablecloth, banner, materials. So it passes very efficiently amongst those who need it. So thanks to folks like Beth and Debbie and Michael and Betty and it's been, you guys have done a lot.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, thanks a lot.
And Mark.
Yeah. And is there anything else from the exec committee that we have to update that I didn't remember? Okay, legislative committee. We'll introduce our new chair, Uli. Thank you very much for taking that on.
Thank you. So we had a legislative meeting, I think last week. We talked about kind of reaching out to the other BK SWAB chairs and committee chairs as well, and we're going to put together a kind of legislative tracker, and we want to kind of figure out who's tracking what so that we can kind of share the burden across, the fun across many people and not be redundant in how we're tracking things. That's mostly what we talked about during that meeting. We hope to have that mostly filled in, and October 26th, we'll discuss it further with all of those who will hopefully be attending next legislative meeting.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, outreach. A lot of activity for the outreach committee. And
I can. Oh, well, I'll talk. I know we've already talked several times about the upcoming event on the 12th. That's been the majority of our focus. And we can put another, the link in again. We hope folks can join us. I will let others, we kicked off this round of outreach at the Sustainable Building Fair. So I will let someone who was there talk about that. I know we had a couple folks on the call that were there tabling. Lee has been amping up our social media. Thanks for putting that in the chat, Rhonda. The link for the October 12th event is there. Lee has been amping up our social media and keeping on top of all of that. There's a lot of resources out there. Folks have been sharing. We're meeting. Our next meeting is actually the 10th is our official committee meeting, Tuesday the 10th at 6:30 via Zoom. And you can let me know. I'll put my email in the chat. Let me know if you want to join that. The focus of that one is actually going to be, Lee had also done a lot of work on what resources are available and what you can find where. So we're going to be talking about how to get that on the website and how we want to propose that looks like, because there's a lot of things. We did do a one-pager that Lee also started that was shared at the September 21st tabling event. So I'm looking for folks that were there. I see Betty. Do you want to talk about how that went? It was at Borough Hall.
Very briefly, hi, everyone. I mean, I love doing these kinds of events. I was just struck by the varied amount. I mean, anyone who came to that was someone who was interested or wanted to know more or something. So they're already like halfway there in that they came physically to this event. And the amount of knowledge or information that these people had was very different. Some were like, I got it, this is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And some hadn't a clue and didn't know. And I think that we all as advocates, as well as DSNY and the outreach people and all, should be aware it isn't a one size fits all. Like, everybody's in a different place. And we need to listen to their questions and try to help co-construct answers to their questions. And it was a great event. It was all different types of people, from owners of small homes to supers to nonprofits to people who wanted to know more. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
That's great. Thank you.
I see Kendall has to leave. Thank you, Kendall.
Thank you.
And sort of related to that, thank you, Betty and Mark and Mary Ellen, who I don't see Mark or Mary Ellen on the call, but they all
were great. They were fabulous.
Mary Ellen's here in person.
Oh, hi. I can't, you guys are like a quarter of an inch big on my screen. I can't see everyone. But yeah, that sort of kicked off this round of tabling. And I just lost my train of thought with what else I wanted to add.
And Sherry, we love the tablecloth, the SWAB tablecloth. That was good.
Yeah, I had to order something quickly versus our taped up version that Bella and I had
it was great.
long ago. So yeah, it's not small. You will see the big black circle logo. I also wanted to call attention, speaking related to the not having a one size fits all sort of thing. That's part of what we want to do this event for, is like have a space on the 12th for your green champions, your building supers, management, anyone to, come out and share and talk and learn, but also, and I don't have the link handy, but I have a feeling Jackie might. On the SWAB website, there's also like case studies around different size, larger buildings, and some residential guides that are also really helpful. And we've got them on our list. I know Lee has them on the list of things that we're going to work to also share out on our website, but with permission, of course, and with credit. But I just wanted to call that attention as well. So, and I can find the links for that if they don't get posted before I stop talking. So
I know, I'm looking.
I think, yeah, I know where it is on the website. I just don't have it up. I'm working on multiple screens. And if anyone else from the committee wants to jump in and say anything, but I do want to thank everyone. We've had a lot of like meeting every week, a lot of changes going on, but I think I think the event is coming together well. We're going to have a panelist call this week. The smaller group that's planning that's meeting tomorrow night, and then we'll have the larger meeting next week. So there's a lot going on with the outreach committee right now. So we appreciate everyone's input and sharing event, and we hope you all can join.
Yeah, I just want to say that a big shout out to the outreach committee. You guys are putting together, I mean, I consider what Lee is doing with the social media also outreach. Just like everything you're compiling, all the information, it's really going to be really helpful. And we could maybe share that out with folks. I mean, I know you're going to do it after the Zoom also. I mean, after, yeah. So it's just, yeah.
I will add, yes, Jackie just put it in the link. I had a feeling she would, or put it in the chat. The link is there. I will say the one pager that we're referring to that was geared more towards, you know, the building event that we tabled at Borough Hall. That is on the homepage of our website and on the resources page as well. So you can find it there, and I can also drop the link in the chat, but that's kind of a little summary thing with some links to more resources for buildings especially.
Awesome. That's great.
Many
Okay.
things we've already talked about tonight and Kate had in her presentation, but again, to kind of summarize it all together.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to mention quickly before we go to the organics update. Oh, is that it for outreach? I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you short. Okay. Thanks a lot for everything you're doing and everyone's support as best you can. I also just want to mention quickly, I want to say it out loud about the Manhattan SWAB fall fundraiser. And it's the ticket price is $20 now. So it's becoming more of a fundraiser, hopefully. But there's going to be some speakers and I think a panel discussion. I'm putting a link to get your tickets. So I just want to say that it's also about organics. Tonight's meeting is a lot about organics. So please come out because I'd love to hang out with you guys in person. That would really be fun.
Are you going to be back in town?
I will be back in town, and I am very much looking forward to it. Okay, so please, Organics Committee, can you talk about it? Now, I just want to make one quick distinction for anybody who's asking. Right now, the All SWAB Organics Task Force is not yet been voted on to be a sanctioned committee separate from, the Organics Committee. So the Organics Industry Committee is there. We will wrestle and grapple with the organics.
Can I just jump in then to just say that really to sort of take care of the formalities. So the official Organics Industries Committee, which is the official committee of the Brooklyn SWAB, and has been meeting now with the Organics Committee of the Manhattan SWAB. And then, so we came all together and have and put together an effort to draw attention to the vulnerability actually of all of the composting. As we hear everybody being excited about the rollout of curbside collections, and we just heard this evening that where is it all going to? Newtown Creek. And so the dragon is in the room, and that's where it's all going. And we need to, and we're a little late in putting together any really robust protesting because it is really also about saving community-based composting. And of course, the irony is that so much of the community-based composting has been in the hands of the Department of Sanitation, that all of those folks are in a certain sense limited in how much protesting they can do to save their composting. So at any rate, with that in mind, all hail to Gil Lopez, the greatest champion there is of community-based composting. And he was there and would, at the 11th hour, put together a carnival and have us all bloody come out in our finery. And it was just brilliant, just great. Can we say anything more about Gil Lopez except that he is the heart and soul of a bloody community composter? And it was really a brilliant day. And I have to thank everybody for being there. We have put together an unofficial petition. We'd like to get now the SWABs to review this petition and have this petition come out as an official document out of all of the SWABs, which essentially is to call attention to the Manhattan, to the mayor actually, and to really lay it on thick to the mayor. There's a growing community, and let's call it a sizable community, of people that want our food scraps to go back to the earth where they belong. And we want to put that petition together and get as many people signed up on that. And that can be a petition that doesn't have to be just about from composters. It can be a petition that should be signed by every green soul in New York City. So but we appreciate that petition is not an official document of any of the SWABs, but we hope to make it an official document soon. And that's my comment about yesterday, except to thank everybody that was here, and it was wonderful. And I have another Zoom on the Brooklyn Society for Ethical Culture, which is my other hat, and I have to go Zoom over to there.
Thank you, Vondra, so much for your update.
Anyway, so that's it, and love you all.
Thank you, Vondra. Does anybody else want to add anything about the Compost Carnival? There were a number of people tabling, so even though we weren't official sponsors or hosts of the event, the Brooklyn SWAB did have a table there along with the Manhattan SWAB. Does anybody want to add anything? Yes. Michael.
I just want to say it was a very positive experience tabling, and there were a lot of people who, who didn't know much about composting, who we got to talk with. And there were lots, it was great tabling with other organizations. And I would just say I recommend it. It's an affirming experience to go out there and talk to people and to see, that other people are interested in the same stuff that we're interested in.
Yeah. Michael got back to his Grow NYC outreach days. That's great. That's excellent. Debbie, do you want to add something? Please do.
I loved Hilla the Earth. She was wonderful. So like the arts, all of us had our reams and reams of literature, and then there were the politicians, and we heard Sandy Nurse yesterday, and we heard Shahana, and we heard Lincoln Wrestler, and then Hilla the Earth stole the show.
And
I don't know.
Did I see a picture that Dior was with her too? Dior from the Bronx SWAB?
A dirty dance, it was dope.
It was great. Always great to have Dior out there too.
Yeah, so, and at the end, we did speak to Peter a bit, the man who was one of the original, I can't remember even what his original thing that he did was, but he told us about some of his, I promised to send him information about your organization. But yes, he goes way back apparently with the gardening movement. So.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else who was there want to talk about tabling or a little more about Hilla? Yeah.
I just wanted to say that, yeah, I mean, it was phenomenal. It was kind of a high coming off that. And then, of course, the news today is a little, gets you back. But it was, I'm curious from the people that were there, I was trying to figure out, we had a good crowd. I mean, what do you think? 500 people? Do you think 500 people went through or less? Or I would just be curious what everybody thinks as far as a head count.
Bastille says no.
The
Oh, maybe he's talking to somebody else.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
We will be doing a debrief. I think we have a meeting on Thursday, like a debrief on it. So if anybody who's not on that call, can let me know if you have any comments, what worked great, what could be better, what should we do differently, ideas, because I think we all came away from that saying, we need to do a carnival for every borough. Started thinking about, also because, one of the things the organics committee has been talking about is, what do we do about Halloween pumpkins, and it seemed like we were trying to like promote a lot of pumpkin smashes and things, but, started wondering, is it pumpkin smashes or is it, a compost carnival at all the schools? It would be great to do that, if we could possibly pull something off. I don't know. We do have a new person from the sustainability coordinator world that we've been talking to. So hopefully we'll have more details on that because we would like to see more stuff on Halloween. But yeah, any questions, maybe we'll do a follow-up survey, for the groups that were there, just to kind of like formally capture people's comments and ideas, because, obviously we need Gil, and he was receptive to the idea. We now have a year to plan for Manhattan, or over, a year to plan for Manhattan, a few months to plan for the Bronx, if we can do it. So, we just want to make it, build upon it, because it was great. It was nice to have, the council people there. It was just great.
Great. Excellent. Yeah,
So-
sorry, I missed it.
So Leah here from the Bronx. Just wanted to say there were 3 of us there from the Bronx, me, Dior, and Zoe from the New York City Compost Project and NYBG. So I'm trying to put the Bronx on the map because we seem to be overlooked when people talk about SWABs and things. Even when Gil was introducing everybody yesterday, he kind of forgot the Bronx. So that's kind of one of the things I want to do. Now that Brooklyn went live today, yay, we're looking forward to the Bronx, which is going to be the next one up. So please reach out to me with any ideas. I might be reaching out to you with questions. We certainly want to do something compost carnival-like in the Bronx, although it's going to be March, so the weather won't be the same, but I'm kind of starting to think about what's possible. And yeah, I look forward to the Bronx going live. And I had a nice time yesterday. I got to meet some people I only know from Zoom boxes. And it is nice to make those connections in real life and meet people. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And yeah, let's not forget the Bronx. The Bronx are there, and all Bronx schools have organics collection now. That was last year that happened. So they've gotten started on this organics in some way or another. So
right, and I am Allison's counterpart in the Bronx, so I'm the head of the Bronx SWAB Organics Committee. We're new. We just started having meetings like a month or 2 ago, so I've got a lot of work ahead of me in trying to make things happen before March.
yeah. One thing that we asked as executive board, and we were talking about this all SWAB Organics Committee, is that other SWABs be asked to join this all SWAB Organics Committee. And our executive board approval for that was sort of contingent upon asking the Bronx SWAB and the Queens SWAB for their official permission to include them as part of the all. So we're glad to have you, and we please come to every meeting that you can, because we love hearing from you. And so maybe Allison, are you in Allison's email?
Yes, I have been going to her meetings for I think over a year, right, Allison? I think it's about a year. Yeah.
Okay, so you are part of the organics, all SWAB Organics already. Anyway, thank you. Thanks for all the work you're doing. Anything else? Does anybody want to add? Okay, are we finished with the organics? Does anybody else?
I just to add one thing, I could, I'll maybe put a couple documents in the chat about, it created a pumpkin pledge document we had at the carnival and, trying to figure out how to do that. I mean, the reality now in Queens and Brooklyn is that there should be no pumpkins in the garbage. They can all be composted. So how do we get that message out? And pumpkins, they don't rot. They last for months. It's not like they're rotting in your refrigerator or freezer. So just, I'll,
Yeah.
keep if anybody wants to like run with that in Brooklyn, let me know, and I'll let you know if we find schools in Brooklyn that are going to do something.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can find out about that. I'll speak with schools folks.
Great.
Okay, so should we move on to the events committee? I feel like you guys have merged a little bit. Liz, do you want to say anything about what you're doing?
Yeah, events has been helping to plan the event with outreach for the 12th. So no other update aside from that.
Thank you for your help and your work. When events and outreach get together, it's we're going to get stuff done. Excuse me, Mayor Adams, but this is what Get Stuff Done is all about.
That is true. And there's a fantastic flyer, which reminds me of Liz, we need to do the update with Sarah from Big News, and then we can get it on the website and make our sad little paragraph very flashy.
Good, yes, flash, we want flash. Okay. So Susan, do you have an update from the NYCHA committee? Thanks for waiting for so long. I
can say that the next meeting is the day after tomorrow. I think anyway, it's October 5th, Thursday. It's the first Thursday of every month. And I put it's in the chat now, I believe, the link. And I would encourage anyone that wants to go once just to show up at 5:30, because there's a lot of innovation happening, because they never really got the recycling going in NYCHA at all, because they have a different system and they just never got it going. So they're doing pneumatic tubes at polo grounds, which they'll have tours of that. I don't have dates of that. And they're doing different kinds of capital projects also. They're experimenting with different kind of waste yards at different campuses and trying to get it more organized. So the entire NYCHA campus is a lot cleaner. And they're experimenting with containerization also there. So that's what I can report from the September meeting. The October meeting hasn't happened yet. And there's no, I didn't see any events. They do sometimes have events, the NYCHA committee, but I don't see any events. Danielle, who's the head of the NYCHA committee, I think she's a PhD student at Yale, and she actually goes to meetings with the NYCHA, upper ups. They have regular meetings. So I admire, how they really wrestle with these problems, but it's definitely kind of starting from the ground up in NYCHA. So that's basically my update. Thank you.
Thank you a lot. That was very thorough, and it makes, I don't know if anybody's interested in joining Susan for those meetings. It makes me certainly want to join her. If only I didn't have too many meetings to go to, I would be there. Okay. Okay, so we have also the Manhattan Fall fundraiser. I know Manhattan SWAB, we already mentioned that, but I just want to mention it again. There's going to be a keynote speaker and a panel host update for the topic is healthy urban soils, healthy people, healthy communities, and the benefits of compost and composting. And so I'm very excited to hear the speakers and to go. And I'd love to see you all there. I am really starving for talking trash with people who also talk trash. Anything else? Does anybody have any other updates? Or anything you want to talk about, Betty?
Yeah, not an update, but one of the previous people talked about pumpkin smashing and composting with schools. If somebody could write me a very brief blurb, I could put it out. There's a Google group on school gardens, and it's usually people who like are allies of school gardens, run school gardens, are involved. So if I could have the exact wording of like, have you thought about asking your kids to bring their pumpkins, or whatever is a generic kind of thing, I will get it on the school gardens Google group. So maybe you can all write to Rhonda and she will send it to me.
Yeah, that's great.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. You can write to me. I'll give you my email address, or you can write to the Brooklyn SWAB. Actually, maybe that's better, and then I can keep it sort of more
Public, yeah.
yeah, public, and also at it's swab.brooklyn@gmail.com, right, Sherry? Let me just make sure that's right. I always get it wrong. Okay.
It is. You're
Okay.
right, Ron. swab.brooklyn@gmail.com.
Thank you. Yeah.
So am I going to be able to see that? I mean, I just want one message, not everybody suggesting.
Yeah. I'll take them at that email address and then I'll compile them.
And I'll put it out on the garden Google group thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And then the more people who can share it, I can share it with sustainability. I talk with them a lot with the schools.
Allison's document is beautiful, by the way.
Good.
Much work. He made a beautiful document that you can share directly. If Allison, if you make it shareable to anybody with the link, then Betty can share it.
Oh, I did? Okay.
Or I don't know if you did, but.
And
I'm not very techy. I need help, like just figuring out what it is, and then I can post it, but finding it on these different sites is a challenge.
And obviously you can customize it for the Brooklyn SWAB logo. There was a document I created like for the carnival again, kind of like last minute, about what swabs are. And I did like a logo lockup with all 4 swabs logos on it, just to kind of like, reinforce in people's minds that every borough has a SWAB. But I just used it for that one event, but we could also think about using that if all the SWABs want to use a document like this, we put all the logos on. Just a thought.
We actually could maybe merge that with the one that we have, Allison, which I can share. Staten Island does not have a SWAB yet that we know of. That I have one that I created that has all of the regular meeting times and all of the social media for all the SWABs. And their logos are on it too, but we had used that when we were doing like joint tabling so that there's one document, but maybe we can make a merge situation happen here.
Yeah. Where we just get the best of all.
Right. I was kind of scrambling to get something done for the event yesterday.
It looks great. It looks great what you have. And I think there's a lot of great stuff to add. I love it.
Great. Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. We're dwindling.
Capitol Hall have anything to add
Yeah.
in the last 2 seconds or 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just came back in because honestly, I remember when the Parks Department did a huge, we're gonna have, or Brooklyn, I think New York Botanic Garden, whatever, we're gonna have 800 pumpkins lining the paths. Can you guys come and pick them up? And it was like, no, how are we, like what? So before we start telling all the schools to do smashing pumpkins, part of that message has to be that there's some place to put them when they're smashed and to make sure that they're gonna get composted and somebody's working on that end.
Mhm.
It's like running a donation drive and then after you collect everything, say, where are we gonna give this to?
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
So the schools, in my understanding, the schools all have containers or some type
So are you
of.
leaving this to the custodian to do? I mean.
No, I mean, if the school is doing an event,
Yeah.
like I've
Well, I'm
seen
just saying,
schools
that's
do
right. So you
a
need to get the custodian on board because they're the ones that are gonna be bringing this to the curb on the day. And do they have room in their composting bins to handle this? Is it okay with them that they're gonna be handling another 200-300 pumpkins? Like that's whatever.
I don't think there'll be 200 or 300. I mean, like.
It's just, I'm just
realistically,
saying
but
to make sure
Mm.
not to make assumptions.
It's an important consideration, yeah. So however this is written, I mean, some schools are having harvest events and festivals, and some schools, if they ask the kids to bring in their pumpkins in November to be composted, some of them will. Some schools, I've seen schools that have these wonderful festivals and they have the pumpkins and they smash them, and then the staff who are there gather it up and put it in the bin. So I still believe in differentiation. Like each school is a little different how they organize it. But I think however we write it to put it out to the school gardens Google group, that's a group that if they're doing an event, they'll help figure it out with the custodians. It's the people that don't have the communication with the custodians who will be more of a problem. I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and Afia mentions why smash them? The kids could learn to make soup instead. I mean, there's a lot of like looking at the culture of each school and what each school, wants and each community, it could be really driven by, super grassroots, just driven by that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That we could add, oh, Allison just added something. Okay, good.
So if you could get some of that information to me, I will try to synthesize it and put it out in the Google group.
I'll compile it as it comes in, and then I'll try to give it. It might still be straggling after I send you some of the stuff, but we'll see how it goes.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.
Good night. Great meeting.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming.
I got the separate team that works on that, girl in my seat at that out.
Bye, Borough Hall. See you next month. Bye, Akmos. Okay, bye. See you later. I'll end it now. I can never end, but bye.